Hey guys, this is Ryan from El Topo Loco, and here we have Juha here today, and we are doing a deck profile with the new set 13 deck with Red Broly. But as you can see right now, we have SS4 Broly on the screen because of in Miami for the Invitational for PPG. Juhan actually was the highest ranked Red Broly player. So before we move on to the Red Bardock deck, we're going to ask him how Red Broly went and what he thinks is how Red Broly is going to evolve into the set 13 format, whether it's going to live or kind of change. But Juha, how you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing good, and I'm actually glad to be on your channel. It's funny because I've been watching your videos for months, and it's actually pretty cool that now I'm technically a part of it.
I'm glad you're here too. We've been chatting over the last few days and just kind of deck theorizing for the new set as new cards have been released. And I mean, I'm always a red player, and as you guys might be able to tell from the last like maybe 5 deck profiles that I've done. Um,
Launch.
so yeah, Launch being one of them, King Piccolo, Hercule, they're Bulma. Like I've been doing a bunch of red decks. And the weird thing is with the set 13 decks, I actually was kind of underwhelmed at first by these red decks. And I was like, this doesn't feel like it. Like the blue decks felt like more like a red deck than the red ones that I thought. But then Juhan is over here saying like, no, this red Bardock deck is kind of broken. And even today, Crossworlds even posted a video coincidentally saying this is going to be like the new Storm. So um, before we get into that, let's start talking about Red Broly and how you did it with Miami, and then we'll transition to your deck profile. And then towards the end of this video, we're also going to show gameplay against King Piccolo and see how well this deck actually works out.
Okay, so I finished 22nd out of I think like 111 players, so I just barely missed up. But I finished X2 with Red Broly, and to be honest, it does feel like the deck is, I don't want to say power crept exactly, but it does feel like it's not exactly as strong as it used to be. Like I used to take Red Broly and feel confident that I was like just gonna win any tournament I played as long as I played Red Broly. But now it just feels like there's too many decks, especially Mecha Frieza, that like just kind of counter Red Broly. So
Yeah,
I still have the deck, and I'm not gonna say I'm like giving up on it, but I don't feel like it's not the boogeyman that people think it is anymore.
yeah. I remember when set 12, right before it came out, everybody was saying this was going to be like a tier 0 deck, and they were kind of close. It was tier 1, and it was definitely a deck that was really hard to play against and really unfun sometimes. But has a very linear strategy to it. And if you know how to kind of interrupt it in the right moments in the right way, it is doable. And then when the new Mecha Frieza came out, it definitely was a huge blow to Red Broly. I also think that Red Green Launch could kind of steamroll it, especially like if you do
Oh,
like
100%.
yeah, if you do the Red Green Gogeta before they awaken and destroy their chain, that definitely disrupts it. And then there was a few other decks that kind of push it out, and I'm kind of on the fringe of saying that's like Red Broly is like one more bad matchup away from just being out of the meta. So it's still in the meta, but just like by a thread, I feel like.
So the thing about Red Broly, from my opinion, is that out of all the meta decks, none of the meta decks feel like your favorite. Like you don't, besides King Piccolo, like you don't feel like you're favored against Dark Broly. You're absolutely not favored against Mecha Frieza at all. It doesn't feel like you're favored against Launch.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like if you play against like anything that's not tier one, yeah, you'll probably like just win.
Yeah,
But like anything that's in the meta feels like it's kind of an uphill battle for Red Broly, and
mm-hmm.
that's why it was so difficult, I guess, to like do better with the deck.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned like this kind of is pretty strong against King Piccolo, which is probably tier 1 at this point. I remember when I first made the deck profile, everybody was like, "What about Red Broly? What about Red Broly?" And I was just like, "Yeah, it probably has a bad matchup starting at 6 life, you know." But now that Red Broly is getting pushed out of the format, King Piccolo has been pushed back in them, or at least maybe not pushed back in, but now is emerging now that Rios won Miami with that. So it's pretty crazy. And King Piccolo, I've been
King
saying for a
Piccolo is a
while,
real boogeyman now.
yeah, it's a good deck. I believe you called it the Red Vijex, which I think is a very
Oh
accurate
yeah,
name. All right.
Dude, it's funny. I tested it literally the day that it came out. After one game with King Piccolo, I'm like, this is Red Badgex, basically.
And I think you're right. I mean, like, in one of my games yesterday, I was playing against a baby player, and he swiped my field, and then like literally within that turn, and then into my next turn, I had a bigger field, just recovered that quickly. Um, so
Yeah, that sounds about right.
one more thing about Red Broly before we move on to your Red Bardock profile. What do you think is going to happen to Red Broly next set? Do you think there's going to be improvements? It's going to stay the same deck, or do you think it's just going to kind of people are just going to move on to the new stuff?
Okay, so here's the weird thing about Red Broly. There's a lot of new cards in the set that make it stronger than it was in set 12, like the King Vegeta counterplay or counter attack of
Mm-hmm.
its King Vegeta's. I forgot what it is. It's in the Bardock deck, but the one that negs something by like 5k that's attacking, and then everything else gets neg 5 for the turn. Like that card's amazing in Red Broly. There's like a bunch of like little cards, little like red cards that are like amazing
Mm-hmm.
in Red Broly. But the problem is there's so many like decks coming out on top of what's already out that it feels like Red Broly is going to get pushed even further. You said that Red Broly is one bad matchup away from like being out of the meta. I feel like if Red Broly plays against Red Bardock just completely trashes it. Red Broly just cannot beat this deck if it goes second because
Interesting.
it's like another launch deck.
Interesting. All right, cool. So let's get into the deck profile. All right, guys. So here we have the deck profile. Obviously, we're still in the early stages. I personally have not tested this yet, and being a red player, I want to play this deck, especially after seeing it in action. But of course, there's going to be some edits in the future, and we'll discuss that in just a little bit. But let's get a general idea of how this deck works. What are the turn by turn plays, and really, what's the strategy of this deck? So take it away.
Okay, so this deck basically plays on turn one. If you lose the die roll and you're going second, you could play two Bardock's crew. So the way the deck works is every Bardock's crew has bond 3 for like if you have 3 red Saiyans on the field.
Mm-hmm.
But the leader, what it does is when you swing with it, you can free play a Bardock's crew from your hand, and so on your turn one, if you're going second, you could free play a dude off of your leader and then pay one to play another one. So that's already 2. So your leader awakens by having 3 Bardock's crew on the field, or the typical take 4 damage. So you can awaken turn 2 because it is so easy to spam these little 1-drops. So the best card in the entire deck, the card that the deck revolves around, is the 1-drop Bardock. Pride of a Low Class Saiyan, I think is its name.
Yep.
It's a 1-drop 4K that when you swing with it, you take a life, and if it deals damage, you restand it. You look up the top 7, and you play any Bardock's crew with energy cost of 1 from the 7 that you revealed. And then neither him nor the card you played can attack, but that's fine because it just basically gets you a free body on board so that you can awaken. But the one you want to play is usually the Fascia or the Borgos because when they're played, they draw you a card.
Okay, so here's the fascia, and which does whoops. Let me go back. All right, so here's the fascia. So she does like a top 5 search. It looks like.
Yeah, she looks the top 5 for any Bardock's crew 5 or less, or a 2-drop unison. So she's actually the best turn 1 play always because the Bardock, the card that gets the engine going, it only gets its effect if you have 2 energy. So if you're going first, like playing the Bardock is bad.
Mm-hmm.
But so the best turn 1 play is to play the Fascia so that she can search either that Bardock or the Super Saiyan Bardock that's the one with the funny art that's like dunking Chilled.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool image too.
It is a funny image. But so you want to do a turn 1 Fascia to grab the Bardock, the 1-drop Bardock. And if you already have the 1-drop Bardock, you grab the Super Saiyan Bardock.
Okay.
So your turn 2, you play the Bardock.
Mm-hmm.
This is the broken play this is like the storm play that I'm about to describe.
Okay.
So you play the Bardock. You pay 1 energy for the Bardock. because you have your Fasha out turn 1. So you pay 1 for Bardock, you swing with Bardock, you take a life, you combo a Bardock's crew from your hand. There's a reason why you're comboing a Bardock's crew. The first reason is you want this attack to go through because it's a 20k swing on your turn 2, so your opponent has 1 energy if they went second.
And most likely they're a
So
10k leader at this point, unless they have an early awaken condition.
exactly. So you want this damage to go through. So most of the time it's going to go through. So now the Bardock looks up the top 7, and you get to play any of the Bardock's crews from your deck. So you want to play ideally the Shugesh, which is a double strike, or the Borgos, that's a draw card.
So this is the Shugesh, and he basically is a 15k double strike if you have 3 Saiyans out. And then the other guy is going to be this guy, the Borgos, and he's also a 15k with Bond 3, and then he's basically a draw.
Yes, exactly. So the Bardock restands after it does damage, and then you play your other dude. So now you have 3 Bardock's crew on the field. Mm-hmm. So now you pay 1 energy to evolve the Bardock, the SS Bardock, over the 1-drop Bardock.
Mm-hmm.
So this Bardock, it has unique barrier. When you evolve it over the Bardock, you can look up the top 7 and play put any of the Bardock's crew from those top 7 into your drop. And then its second effect is when it swings, you can free play a Bardock's crew from your drop, and then you choose 2 red Saiyans and give them a 5k boost. So ideally, you want to free play the guy that you comboed on the first 1-drop Bardock swing.
So you basically got a free combo out of it. Your 20k attack from your Bardock is a free combo that you're going to just recycle back anyway from this Bardock. So it's almost like you double dipped in a way.
Exactly. So now that right now you should have 4 Bardock's crew on the field. So you can awaken because you have at least 3 Bardock's crew. So now when you swing with your leader, you draw a card and you can play another Bardock's crew from your hand. Ideally, you want to play the Borgos or the Fasha because when they're played, they get you a card. The Fasha looks up the top 5 and grabs a card, mm-hmm. and the Borgos just draws you a card. So now you have a bunch of 15Ks and 20Ks to swing with. And if the card you played off of the SS Bardock was a Shugesh, it's a 20K double strike. And this is all turn 2 where your opponent has 1 energy.
And
you should have around 9 cards in hand.
And then you have a bunch of attackers, one of them being a double strike. And don't forget your leader's also a double strike on the Awaken side, who's also free playing a guy. So you're getting what, like 6-7 swings or something like that on turn 2?
You're getting 7, 15/20K swings on turn 2.
And that's
2 of them being potentially double strikes.
And also, that's committing very little combo power. The 1 combo piece you are using, you're also recycling off of that. So it's kind of like you're not losing anything.
It's like you played it onto the field instead of actually comboing it.
Yeah, it's almost like a King Piccolo in that way.
Yes, exactly. Actually, it's funny. My friend actually said this. He played against this deck, and he said it feels more oppressive than King Piccolo.
Which is saying something. And it looks like you're running for your unison. You're running the Piccolo, and this is, of course, I think, probably the best red unison at the moment. But there are 2 new red unisons that might be going well with this deck that come out with set 13. Have you tried those, or you just think that this Piccolo is still just the way to go?
I haven't tried them because this is just a rough draft of the deck. If I'm being honest, I just basically put 4 of all the Bardock's crew, and then I just put all of the red staples just to get a feel for the deck. Mm-hmm. But I like the Piccolo Junior just because, like you said, it's the best red unison in the game right now. It draws you a card, and I think the best thing about it is the KO effect.
Yes.
The fact that if they counter, you can just pop something. If they play Dark Power Black Mass Saiyan, now they have to think if they want to counter or not because this will pop the Black Mass Saiyan because that's actually a card that hurts this deck.
Mm-hmm. And even against my King Piccolo, there was times I wanted to negate, and you had this unison out, and I was just like, well, I'm going to just pop a guy then, or one of my demon clans are just going to get popped. So that definitely prevented me from countering at times. So
yeah, exactly. That's literally the reasoning behind the Piccolo. So the 1-drop Fasha, she can search it. When she looks at the top 5, she grabs the 2-drop unison, red unison, or one of the Bardock's people. Also, the neg 2 effect is actually very relevant with the Super Saiyan Goku that becomes a 25k when you have Bond 3.
So yeah, a lot of people have been talking about this as a heartfelt plea play, but we don't see heartfelt plea in here because you said you're
I'm
probably
actually
awakening.
thinking about trying that.
Yeah, it's a cool idea to put in here, but like you said, you're probably awakening turn two anyway most of the time, so it could definitely be dead unless you wait another turn. Which again, it depends on the matchup. Maybe you might want to do that sometimes, but I mean, if you're just going all gas, maybe heartfelt plea is not the way to go. But I mean, we got this
Because
guy who draws a card for one energy or for one cost, or you could free play him, I believe, right? Or it does have to be a Bardock's
yeah, you
crew.
can, yeah, no, you could free play him off the leader. You could even free play him off the SS Bardock too.
Interesting. And then it looks like Bond 3, which again is pretty easy, especially I'm not sure if we mentioned this leader makes all your one drops into three drops. So you don't have to worry about shocking death ball or even
Dormant.
dormant potential killing them off. But there's other things like
Not
Yamcha
even
counterplay and
Secret
Wolfang.
Identity hurts his deck that much because it just gets rid of two instead of like the whole board.
Interesting. Yes, that's true. So that board sweeper is not doing as much as it could be doing. So that's definitely a good point. But this guy on turn three, if you have three or if your opponent has three or more energy, he basically becomes a 25k. So he could be a heartfelt target. But since you're using it with this unison, if you do the -2 effect, even if you don't use rejuvenate, because rejuvenate is only going to be activated if you have another Piccolo under this guy, but you're mostly using it for the board sweep because you could pick any of your three costs, which all of your one drops become three costs, and you can pick them, and it's going to swipe their board of anything of that attack power or less. So basically, anything 25k or less can be swiped, and if you're going turn two, turn three, most of their stuff is probably going to be 25k or less at that point.
Yeah, even against Dark Broly, it's good because the SS Bardock can play the Super Saiyan Goku from the drop, or let's assume you already have it on the field. It makes it a 30k,
Mm-hmm.
so you can do the neg 2 to clear 30k's worth of battle cards.
That's a good point too. Yeah, you could even boost it up. A few more cards that we have in here. I mean, some of them are just obvious ones. We have Violent Rays at 4. We have the Super Combo. We're picking the digging one, basically the one that just draws a bunch. And you're playing mono right anyway, so it doesn't really matter. We're playing the Yamcha just because we have a good unison, and this is actually a good card to play against itself. In the mirror match.
Yeah, actually, that's actually pretty funny. Yeah.
And then we didn't talk about this chain attack Tora. He's a blocker, which is okay, but we're mostly using him, I think, for one, just to increase our bond and free play stuff. But also, I believe he tutors a little bit, right?
Okay, so the Torah is actually the worst one in the early game, but in the late game, it's actually really good because when you play him from your hand, so he doesn't get the effect if you play him off the Bardocks, which is another reason why he's the worst one.
Mm,
Um, you can grab a Bardock's Crew from your drop with energy cost of 5 or less and add it to your hand. So in the late, so the thing about this deck is, even though it is kind of glass cannon, if the game goes long enough, if you loop the Toras and the Fashas, you can constantly have a huge hand because you play the Tora grabs back the Fasha, you play the Fasha adds more combo power to your hand. So in a way, it's like it continues to rebuild your hand basically, and it's a blocker.
interesting. So, a lot of times with these glass cannon turn two decks, a lot of times like if you don't kill them that turn, you're in trouble. But like with this deck, you don't have to necessarily just drop your whole hand if you don't want to. You could actually play that longer game and play the grindy who can diminish whose resources quicker kind of game.
So the weird thing about this deck is that it can play the long game, but not efficiently, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah,
you generally have like 9 to 10 cards in your hand past turn 2, and you have like 5 or 6 dudes on board. But you can basically, if your opponent like goes hard on you somehow, and you combo most of your hand away, you can't really. You can kind of recover it, like if you play like the Tora to grab the Borgos or the Foster, and then you play that to draw a card. So you can kind of recover your hand and board, but you can't really do that as efficiently as like King Piccolo or Dark Broly or something.
okay, fair enough. So basically, this is gas deck, floor to the or foot to the floor kind of deck. Turn 2, maybe turn
Yeah,
3, but when you're getting to turn 4 plus, you're probably in a bad situation.
basically.
Okay. And then let's see, we have this King Vegeta counterattack. Let's see, what's he do?
Okay, that card's actually amazing. I actually want that for Red Broly too. So if you have 3 or more energy, it's a free negate if you discard a red card.
Okay.
So you choose the attacking card. I think it ignores barrier too, but
Yes.
so it even works on leader unisons. And you neg it by 10k. So it's not an actual negate, but it negs it by 10k. And then if your opponent wants to swing, every card they swing with has to lose 5k. So it's like your leader gets beamed for the turn basically, and you can only activate one per turn.
So it's a reverse bean in a way, which is kind of cool. So it
Yeah,
makes it a little bit easier
yeah.
to stay alive. Obviously, against.
Although sometimes it conflicts with violent rays because it's like okay, so they become like the 20Ks become 15K, so it's like they can swing under violent rays.
Ooh,
So
so that's a good
sometimes
point.
it's like kind of awkward.
Yeah, so maybe that might be a change you might want to make because I mean, Violent Rays would be good against like a Dark Broly or a Gotenk deck, but most of the time you're saying you're like turn 2, turn 3 is what you want to get to and finish the game off. But like Violent Rays kind of conflicts because this is more like a long game kind of card.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
maybe it's matchup dependent which one of these you want to go with. But like you said earlier, this is just the early like first draft kind of thing.
yeah, yeah. I might just do like 2 and 2, or like you said, main one, side the other, depending on like the meta or like the bad matchups of the deck.
Mm-hmm. And the last two cards are actually the only black cards in here. So this is actually how you definitely snuck one in on me. I thought I was safe, but of course, like
Both of those cards, coincidentally, both of them.
yeah, actually both of them, yes. Um, I thought I was like, why would he run Overwhelm? Because it seems like it's a lot of drop centric like plays, but then like in hindsight, I was like, why wouldn't he run Overwhelm? Because you are feeding your drop really easily for like very little commitment, and why not just keep going if you can keep going?
Yeah. So basically, the Bardock is there as like the Bardock is basically the finisher of the deck. It feels like because the entire so most games your opponent starts their turn 2 or their turn 3 with around anywhere between 2 to 4 life. So because your turn 2 is your most explosive turn where you're doing like all your damage. So for the rest of the game, they're in an awkward spot too, where they're like at 2 life. And I've noticed most people think that Shugesh, the double strike or the leader swing are like the most impactful swings. So they'll always save their negates for the double strikes, or like they'll use like their counters on the or like their counter plays or whatever on the Shugesh.
Mm-hmm.
But and that's why the Bardock is there, because the Bardock sometimes is the real finisher of the deck, and it's like you're just sneaking all these 15k swings. Eventually, one of them's about to go through, and even if they're like at 2 life, you can just drop the Bardock and then just go for game with the Bardock, basically.
I gotta admit, I
And the
believe that's exactly what happened to me in this game.
and the Kai is the Kai. I literally, it's $500 for a reason. I don't think I need to explain why that card is
Yeah.
there.
Some people have been telling me like they thought the new secret rare that came out in Battle Evolutions is better than this, and I'm like, you're crazy.
Absolutely, absolutely not even close.
Like it's a good card. Don't get
Like
me wrong, the new secret rare, but this for one energy is a 40k beater, and that alone is just good enough. Never mind for another energy, you can just board sweep and get rid of unisons are key to this game at this point. Um,
especially in this deck, it's amazing because most of your guys you're playing for free. The one drop Bardock is playing stuff for free. Your leader is playing stuff for free. The Super Saiyan Bardock is playing stuff for free. So you usually have energy open. So a one drop 40k in this deck on top of all your other swings is just crazy.
I agree. This card is definitely worth it. Luckily, I picked mine up when it was first released, and I was like, oh man, $130 for a secret rare. But now I'm looking at the price. I'm like, yes, $130 for a secret rare. I'm glad I got it.
That's a steal nowadays.
I know, for real. All right, cool. So we have one gameplay right now that we're going to play for you guys, which is going to be against King Piccolo. This is our game 2. I will be posting maybe game one later in the future. So basically, spoiler alert, this is this game we're going to show is when Bardock goes perfectly according to plan, and he is going to destroy me. But we'll see that in just a second. Game one, I actually was able to kind of control the field and do everything I think perfectly. And I think two things that went in my benefit was one, he didn't draw optimally, and two,
That was
I
actually the worst hand I've ever drawn with the deck,
okay.
ironically.
So I mean, I just got lucky in that sense. And two, I mean, I was able to control the field. Game two, he had the advantage of one going first, and two, what else did you do in that game? I think just going first was a big.
I drew the Bardock turn two.
Okay.
I had the Bardock by turn two.
Yeah, so you had your optimal play on turn two. So,
Yeah.
we'll.
And it's actually, I just want to tell people it's very consistent to get that. Like the one draw Bardock, if you don't draw it, just throw your whole hand away just to get the one draw Bardock.
So this is your main target for turn one.
Yeah.
Well, turn
you
two.
You don't want to play turn one because you need to have two energies to be able to do it. So the perfect turn one is to play Fasha because she lifts up the top five. So if you don't have the Bardock, she can grab you the Bardock. And if you have the Bardock, she can grab you the Super Saiyan Bardock because you want to be able to do the Bardock swing, restand the Bardock, evolve the Super Saiyan Bardock over it. And then you want to swing with both the regular Bardock and the Super Saiyan Bardock.
All right, cool. So basically, your mulligan is for her and him, and everything else you could just put back if you like.
Exactly. Even the Kai. Even if I draw the Kai, I still put it. If I don't draw the Bardock or the Fasha, I just put the Kai back.
All right.
Which feels bad sometimes, but that's how important it is to get that Bardock.
All right, cool. And one more thing before we move on to the actual gameplay. Any edits that you think you might want to change in the near future?
Oh, for sure. Okay, so the super combo, as much as I love the Raditz super combo, I kind of want to use the Nappa super combo just because you have so many attacks that it's like a double super combo. Yeah. And it's even better if you when you're trying to get that Bardock to go through, if you drop a Nappa, that's a 25k on like turn two. So they have to take it. Then the Nappa plays itself. So here's the interesting thing about the one drop Bardock. It does not have unique, and it does not have you can only play one copy per turn. So you could, if you draw broken enough, you could actually resolve two of the one drop Bardock on your turn two. It's just that most opponents are not going to let the second Bardock hit go through. Mm-hmm. But the Nappa super combo could make it to where it forces the second Bardock through. So now your field is even bigger than like what it was in the gameplay video that we're about to show. Mm-hmm. So I've been thinking about the Nappa super combo.
Another interesting thing about the Nappa super combo, it actually would work with your Von 3 as well, because it's just checking for Red Saiyan.
Oh, interesting. I actually didn't even think of that. Wow. So you can actually only can turn one if you do the Nappa super
combo. That's actually pretty cool.
I was thinking of like changing the ratios around. So ideally, I want to keep the Bardock crew around the same, even though some of them are like not the best. I want to have as many targets as possible because I have whiffed on the Bardock before where I look up top 7 and I can't play anything. So I want to have as many targets as possible. I'm probably gonna like play around with the negates. I might try like the heartfelt plea engine because theoretically you could kind of like go off turn 2 and save your awaken and then turn 3 just do the heartfelt, but I'm not sure. There's also a lot of utility one drops that I want to try out, like Broly Crown of Retribution, Intensifying Trunks,
Saiyan Kaba,
the one drop Kaba. Hell, you could even free play Intensifying Trunks, and then you could do chain attack into like Pan or chain attack Zeno or chain attack into something broken. You know, like there's so many possibilities that I still want to try out with the deck.
And
like,
with how much you're spamming, you could probably clear a unison and not worry about chain attack getting hit by a counterplay.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny. The only unisons that I'm afraid of are the red ones because Yamcha's the only counterplay that actually hurts this deck. Like Frieza, you don't care if they freeze unless they freeze the Bardock, the one drop Bardock. But even then, if they free to the Bardock, you could play the Tora to grab the Bardock, swing with the leader, free play the Bardock, and then just swing with the Bardock anyway. And they use their one charismatic for the turn.
Okay, cool. All right, let's get to the gameplay then. All right, so here is the
Oh,
gameplay.
cool. So I get to see.
Yeah, so you get to see from my perspective actually. So
Yeah.
we pre-recorded this, so we're gonna see what this looks like in hindsight and be able to kind of like assess our plays. So he went first. He played Borgos. It looks like my untap messed up, so technical difficulties. Um, so we get it back running. So I did King Piccolo. I just swung. I'm gonna basically put a drum in my life, most likely. Um, we realized when we
Looking
started
at your
this
hand, you
game.
should have.
All right, go ahead.
No, I feel like that's a spoiler. I'll save it for when the term comes up.
Okay. So it looks like our untap messed up, and we're like, it won't let us pass turns. So we're like trying to do this quickly because if you don't pass a turn in 30 minutes on untap, it kicks you off. But luckily, he's playing in a very aggressive deck that kills me in way less than 30 minutes. Um, so we're gonna see how this goes. Now, going second with King Piccolo sometimes feels better actually because you're going to awaken guarantee on turn two. Sometimes going first, yeah, you get the energy advantage, but then you have to wait a whole extra turn to awaken and really let it go off. So I'm debating about like, hey, do I want to do like when it gets to my turn two, do I want to do the unison? Because that's typically what you want to do, but then I tap out. So we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, so I guess I'll do some narrating for like my turn, why I played what I did. I basically drew the combo, so I guess I can explain. This is what you ideally want to do every game. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna pay one energy to play the Bardock. That's the centerpiece of the deck. So I'm gonna swing with the Bardock. So with the Bardock, I take a life, and it's a 15k swing. But like I was saying earlier, you want to combo a Bardock screw.
Now, in
Um,
hindsight, I really should have done this Wolfang Fist right here, but I didn't really know this deck yet. But yeah, this is pretty crazy how this is working out.
yeah. So the Bardock, when it does, so I'm comboing the Shugesh right now.
Hmm.
Um, so that Shugesh, I'm gonna end up playing it from the drop later that turn because that's why you want to combo. So the Bardock tree that you're comboing, you're gonna probably end up playing for free off of the SS Bardock. But the Bardock, this one drop Bardock, the card that it plays can't attack. So you ideally want to grab a Fasha or a Borgos because they draw you cards, so you get
Uh,
some value out of it.
okay, that makes sense. I think actually, in hindsight, I didn't know. I guess I didn't read the effect fully. I didn't know that Bardock couldn't swing twice in the turn, and that the next card being played couldn't swing. I think I was saving my energy for the attack of the Demon Clan, but if I Wolf Fang Fist, I think it would have been a better play because now I know your ideal turn two play would have stopped that completely, and also I
Yeah,
probably would have done.
there are ways. Like even if you get rid of the Bardock, there are ways to still do the play.
Uh
Even
huh.
with the one energy that I have open, like I said, I could play the. If I don't know, I don't remember if I had this in my head, but I could play the Tora
Hmm.
to grab the Bardock and then swing with the leader and use the leader effect to free play the Bardock and swing with the Bardock again. But I don't know if I had the Tora in my hand or not.
Okay.
I don't remember.
Yeah. I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, there are ways. So even if your opponent kills the Bardock, there are still ways to basically do this broken play. You just
Hmm.
need to draw the Bardock. If you draw the Bardock, you're fine.
Hmm. Now, King Piccolo does have pretty good board clearing. So one thing, at least in our game one, was I kept on clearing his board between like Wolf Fang Fists or Piccolo Unison Effect or just drums coming into
Drums.
play. So it's if you're able to control the board before they get to bond three, it's a lot easier to manage against. So red can actually be its own worst enemy in this matchup.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. It feels like any other color doesn't feel that bad, but red feels like the worst matchup for sure.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Even is that all you got? Just destroys this deck because not only does it get rid of two, but it more likely. Oh, I did have the Tora,
Okay.
so it'll more likely turn off the bond anyway.
Yes, and it actually seems like Is that all you got? Actually, might be some resurgence because it does so well against King Piccolo. I've been seeing a lot more people side decking it now. So now you got
Yeah.
that free play. So essentially, you grab that Shugesh back in your hand. So that free combo, you made that your Bardock 20k before.
So a minor misplay that I made here was that I wasn't supposed to get the Torah effect because I played it off of the Bardock effect, but the
Uh,
Torah only grabs it from hand. But I don't think it would have made much of a difference, that extra 5k.
okay.
So for future reference to anyone watching the video, if you free play the Torah off of the Bardock, you don't get to grab the guy from the drop.
It's all good. I mean, new cards make new mistakes. When King Piccolo first came out, I used to think that the negate Piccolo Junior, I thought it came out in active mode, and so it was a negate and a blocker. I'm like, this. How is
It's
this even a
already
card?
broken.
I'm like, this is so
Okay.
good. I mean, it's still a good card, but I was like, wow, this is insanely good.
Okay, so you see how my hand blew up? So
Yes.
the leader awakens when you have 3 or more Bardocks crew on field. So you take life until you have 4 and you draw a card. So it's like you basically drew 4 cards. And then you're going to free play even more dudes.
So it is a little bit glass cannon y in the sense that you do have to go low on life early, but since you're trying to close out the game turn 2, turn 3 anyway, having that draw power is actually probably beneficial for you anyway. So right
Exactly.
here,
Also, if you're playing against an aggro deck, you can also choose to just not awaken until you're like at 4 life, basically.
okay. All right, so I did Attack of the Demon Clan. I figured I'd save my Wolfang Fist for my next turn while I have a free negate if I do decide to play the Unison, and might as well get use out of my 1 energy. So Drum is just good because if I'm able to subtract one of their guys by 10k, and I don't believe your Torah gets a boost, so he is a blocker.
No,
But if
it doesn't. He's just the worst one overall for a lot of reasons.
yeah, so I get rid of your Bond 3 essentially, and I get a blocker out of this, which is good because your leader
Yeah.
does have double strikes. So I definitely don't want to take too much more damage. Like early game, King Piccolo doesn't care too much about damage, but he doesn't really want to get below 3 life before he awakens.
Yeah.
Um,
And I actually had a sequence around that. I had to get you from 3 to 1 so that you couldn't awaken on.
yeah,
Oh, that's a spoiler for later on in the turn.
well, I mean, the turn's still going. I really thought a
Okay.
few times, I'm like, this turn's got to be over soon. And then this came out, and I was like, whoa, okay.
Okay, so this Bardock, you pay 1 energy to evolve it over the Bardock. When it swings, it plays Bardock. Actually, I think it plays any 1-drop sand from your drop, and then you choose 2 red Saiyans other than him, and they get a 5k boost. So you use him to play the one that you comboed on the 1-drop Bardock,
Okay.
which is in this case the Shugesh. So you're basically free playing a 20 double strike right now.
And you're getting a free draw, essentially.
Yeah.
So you're doing your top 7 search. You got the fascia.
Oh, I guess I grabbed the Fasha instead. I think I grabbed the Fasha instead of the Shugesh because I felt like I couldn't win that turn. So I rather had more combo power, or I guess I was digging for like pieces or something.
Okay.
Because playing the Shugesh probably wasn't the best play if I couldn't like win that turn. So I was,
No, it looks like you did pick fascia.
yeah. So I guess I was digging for something. Oh, also every one of these dudes except for Tora are basically 15Ks that you're basically playing for free.
And then with this Bardock, you're making them in 20Ks.
Oh, I remember why I didn't grab the Shugesh, and I'll say why after. Because if I say why, it'll spoil like my next couple moves in this turn.
Okay. So now you have a 20k fascia, but before that, I'm at 3 life right now. So you're swinging with a double strike. I don't want to go down to 1 life pre-awaken.
So the leader when he swings, he's a 15 double that draws you a card, and then you get to play any 1-drop Saiyan. So I had the Shugesh in my hand, so I think that's why I didn't play the Shugesh. I rather just use the Fasha to grab whatever I was digging for, and then just play the Shugesh I had in my hand.
And he has
So now I have the 15.
Most of the Bardock's crew have unique, correct? Except for maybe the
None of
Tora.
them do. Literally none of them do except Shugesh.
Oh, really? Okay. So Shugesh, you couldn't
Yeah,
play 2 anyway, so.
yeah. So that's why I felt like the Fasha was the better play.
Okay. So then you got this double strike in, which I did not expect. I mean, I could have comboed out of it, but at this point, I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna lose hand size, and it's gonna be hard to recover. Um,
Yeah.
and I figured you're gonna push me down to at least two anyway, so might as well be able to awaken this turn, get some free play out of this.
So spoiler alert, I did have the Super Saiyan Goku in my hand, and I considered playing that instead of the Fasha.
Uh,
But it's only a 25k if your opponent has 3 or more energy.
yeah, so he just would have been a weak guy, so it would have been set up for the next
Yeah.
turn. But I'm saying going first seems to be a big deal for this because I mean this is a totally different game from game one. Um, I like even
Yeah, it's
after
just
just playing it
storm based.
once.
It's like Joey Palladino said. This is a new storm.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it also doesn't help that I'm
Literally.
starting at a six life either. But you know that's the thing with King Piccolo. You know it's a
Yeah.
crazy deck, but you know that does have that downside to it. So I got
Yeah.
the leader effect, the activate battle, which a lot of people do wrong. They combo first and then do the top card, but you actually get to see what the top card is first. And in this case, I got a
Yeah.
super combo. So I could have built up a field, but I mean, I figured you weren't going to swing anymore anyway this turn. So maybe I'll save my drum for another turn. But I got a super combo. I
In
didn't have to
hindsight,
waste
it
anything
might have.
else.
In hindsight, it might have been better to play the drum,
You
from
know,
what I could tell.
you're probably right, actually, because then I would have more field presence to either clear your board or another blocker to survive another turn. Because honestly, I just was
Yeah.
like, if I survive turn two, I think I'm good. And I thought I had enough resources to survive till turn two, but we'll see how, or to turn three, but
So
we'll see
the
how
so,
this goes.
so, so the funny thing is, you actually had the perfect defense. You have your Unison, you have your Piccolo Junior negate, you have your Wolfang Fist,
Yes,
you have your Yamcha counterplay. You have literally everything to defend,
yes,
basically. And
which is why I felt pretty confident.
oh, let's just see what happens.
Yeah, this is me debating like, do I even want it? I mean, like, because I also have violent rays, but your guys are mostly 15Ks, and yeah, they could get boosted, but you could play around that if you really wanted to, and still just swing with 15K. So that's why I was debating like, hey, do I want to pay energy for Wolfang Fist? Hey, do I want to pay energy for this or that? But then I was like, well, if I get my Unison out, I could start clearing things, and I got so many free stuff like you were saying before for defense. Um, but we'll see how it goes. I play the Unison. I was like, okay, let's go for it. It allows me to draw another card too. I get to kind of set up my life a little bit with my leader.
You even have the Kai in hand.
I
Like
well,
looking at your hand, it's hilarious.
yeah. I mean and that's why I'm like, if I get to turn three, I think I should be good. And I could have even topoed, but I think you could have pushed through topo. Um, so that's the reason why I really didn't go
Yeah,
for that.
I would have attempted to just push through the topo if you topoed, most likely.
Yeah,
Knowing me.
I mean, you have two double strikes on the board. You just had to get one or two of them through. I mean, I have a pretty large hand, but you don't know what my hand is. But I mean, there are some clunky cards. I mean, there's a few of them that are 10K combos, or some of them that are extra cards. So yeah, I don't know if I would be able to survive if you just push through a topo.
Yeah. And I thought about that. Like going into game one, I saw you had a bunch of like extra cards. So when I did my final push, I took that into account. I'm like, his hand's pretty big, but I wonder how much of it is actual combo power.
Yeah. All right. So right now I'm debating if I want to. Oh wait. So I did leader swing. What am I swinging at?
You
Shugesh,
have
the
like
double
14
striker.
cards in your hand, huh?
Yeah, I think it looks like it's 13 cards in hand.
Okay, so one thing that I've noticed about everyone that plays against this deck, they always swing at Shugesh to get it off the board, and I think that's a huge mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you clear the Shugesh, I'm just gonna play it for free with them. So if you don't clear the Bardock, then clear the Shugesh is like kind of a misplay.
Okay, that does make sense because I mean, you're recycling from your drop area pretty easily. So you essentially, in Yu-Gi-Oh terms, you have a built-in monster reborn.
Yeah, every single turn. It's literally a Lumina or a Zombie Master for those that play Lightstorm or Zombies.
Okay, so right here, I am playing Tambourine, which seems like a bad play rather than Drum, but I feel like I play Drum on defense. And right now, I drew into my Unison, which I was hoping to get one off the life, and I did. So I could stack one underneath. So now Tambourine can be a 20k dual attack. Um, and I'm hoping he thought I just made a
I
misplay.
actually I actually wondered why you played the tambourine over the drum when you did that play, but like it makes sense what you do during this turn. But I wasn't sure where you were going with that. I thought the drum was like the better play.
Yeah, I was hoping you'd think it was a misplay, so then you would just let it die. Um, and then like I stacked it, so now I don't have 3 face up life, which is part of the dual attack of Tambourine. But if I have a card under my Unison, which now I do, I can get the dual attack. Now my misplay right here was I could start clearing his field, especially that Bardock with the 20k, and either diminish his resources or kill his Bardock. But the problem here was I thought that none of his guys had barrier, and I think I just realized right now, oh no, he has barrier. So I'm giving you a free card in hand instead of diminishing resources or killing a guy. Um, you're probably just going to take this. And I thought I could just like, because I didn't plus my Unison with this +1 effect, I just stacked it. So I figured I could do the -2 and sweep his board, but I was wrong because now the main target I want to kill is going to live.
So the interesting thing about that is if you had done the neg two, that would have turned off your Yamcha, and then I could have rebuilt my board without like any counterplay on your end.
Well, at this moment, I don't have the Yamcha in my hand. I think I draw into it somehow.
Because I remember you had the I remember. I remember the exact play where you must have drawn it. It's when you're trying to kill my Bardock, and you actually played very smart. Like you realized that that Bardock was a threat, so you comboed pretty high to try to get rid of it.
Yeah. And this is like, as soon as I saw a barrier, I was like, oh man, it wasn't as easy to get rid of it. Now I'm like, now I realize this needs to die. So at the very least, I'm going to put enough pressure on the Bardock. So either you got to commit to keeping it alive or it's just going to die. And then hopefully I could live because of that. So this is where I'm like,
Spoiler alert.
barrier. All right, so misplay on my part, but again, new cards. Expecting to make misplays here and there.
Yeah. So spoiler alert to most people, I'll probably try and save the Bardock because it's very important. So
Yeah,
if you can commit pretty hard to getting rid of it.
and I could have done two 20k attacks minimum at it, so that would have been at minimum 2 cards out of your hand. But instead, I gave you an extra card and didn't.
Lost an attack.
Yeah, and I lost an attack. So now I did the Unison at it. Oh no, I swung Unison into one of your other guys to turn off your bond. Um,
Well, the bond was already off.
okay.
There's the option.
Yeah, so I plus now that I realize they can't minus and sweep your field, I'm going to just plus my Unison anyway, and this is where I'm going to combo up. Yes, and I get one more draw.
I remember you doing the super combo, so I just assumed you drew the on top of super combo.
Okay.
And I remember right here, you were thinking really hard. You were at 30, and you were thinking really hard, and I could tell you wanted to commit more.
Yeah.
And that was the right line of thinking. But you probably should have committed a little bit more.
I also didn't want to. I wanted to commit a good amount where it was going to diminish something in your hand, but not kill me on the crackback. So I was trying to figure out what's a good number. So 30 seems pretty good, but I'm like, okay, your super combos are activated. Yeah, you'd commit a super combo +1. No, yeah, at this point it'd be super combo +1. So I was like, I want a little bit more out of your hand. So I'm thinking super combo +2, and I would still be at a relatively good hand size. Plus, I got a good amount of negates in my hand that I could free play the next turn. Plus, now I got a Yamcha counterplay. So I figured I'm like, okay, I'm probably pretty good. Don't overcommit, but put enough pressure on. I was even debating about this Piccolo, or he basically could free play the drum if I combo this Piccolo promo card from my hand. But I was like, okay, he has a double strike leader. Should I just go to 1? But I was like, no, because then it makes every one of his attacks lethal. So I'm like debating instead of just maybe 1 or 2 attacks that are lethal right away. Maybe I could use that Piccolo later instead.
So one thing to remember about the Bardock deck is that once per turn you essentially have free 5k combo power because the Bardock would just bring back the card you comboed away.
True.
So that made it easier for me to combo my dudes because when I'm comboing, I'm thinking to myself, what card do I want to free play next turn?
That's true. It's almost like in King Piccolo, like you compared this deck to a King Piccolo deck. You have to minimal swing like 20k at King Piccolo because you're getting a free 5k combo every single turn. So
Exactly.
if you're not pushing above that, so at this point, there's not much
So
else I
right
can
there, I
do.
comboed a 40. So I comboed a 40. I do the super combo, and I comboed the Fasha and the uh, Borgos
Mhm.
because either one of those would be a good card to free play off of the SS Bardock. So
Mhm.
I comboed both, just depending on what I drew. Do I want to like look up the top five, or do I want to just draw a card?
Yeah, that makes sense. Gives you a nice it gives you a variety of choices. So right here, I feel pretty good because I'm like, hey, okay, I'm gonna negate his double strike, no problem there. I'm gonna have a board next turn, and what else? Um, you only have 7 cards in hand after the leader swing, so versus my 11, I was like, okay, I don't think you're gonna try to push through too much. So now you play her.
So the funny, yeah. So she looks up the top five and grabs a piece. So I think I grabbed a Bardock here on the off chance that. Oh, no, I guess I grabbed Shugesh.
So I
But I
did
was gonna say, oh, go on.
No, I was just gonna say I'm doing Yamcha now because you already did your leader swing, so you got the free play off of that, and Yamcha doesn't work on counter window one if you hard cast. So I'm like, let me shut off his bond 3 right away, kill 2 guys. Now all of his stuff can't be 15Ks very easily unless he commits energy to his stuff.
So once you did the Yamcha, I felt safer attacking with the Bardock because I'm like, whatever guy I'm gonna play is gonna be able to
To stick.
safely stay on the board unless you Wolfang Fist it.
Yes, which I do have, but let's see, what are you doing right now? You're just gonna play
That
another
was the
guy.
card I was trying to play around. Okay, I play the Borgos. I hard cast it just to draw a card
Hmm.
and to try and turn my bond back on.
And this guy's going to free play a card and search top 7.
So I don't think I do this search 7 effect just because I felt like I didn't need to.
Oh,
So
wait, no, the top
I just
seven's when
played
it's
the shoot.
played.
I
So,
think I played the Shugesh right here.
yeah, you don't get the top 7 effect anymore.
Yeah. Another reason why I combo is sometimes you whiff off of it. Oh, I guess I grab her because I know why. I'm digging for combo power at this point.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I know exactly why I played her over the Shugesh. In my mind, I'm thinking the Shugesh is definitely not going to go through because if I swing with the Shugesh, you're going to Wolfang Fist the Shugesh. So there goes my double strike. So I basically just grabbed combo power. And that Bardock is a 10k combo. So I felt like that was the best combo power to grab. Oh, and here it comes.
Yeah. I, I,
Activate
I felt pretty safe
battle.
with a Wolfang Fist in my hand because I'm like, those 15Ks are going to die. And I have a drum that I could easily combo into play right now and kill another guy because oh, wait, no, your bond is
Yeah.
activated now.
Yeah.
But 40K is going to be something really hard to deal with. So I'm doing my
Yeah.
leader.
I threw $500 onto the board.
Yeah, basically, you just paid to win right now. But with
Yeah,
untap, it's
exactly.
free.
Big
mine's
skill,
just
big brain.
mine's just sitting in my hand saying, "Hey, I wish I had one more energy." So now that I see this on the field, I'll know you're going to board swipe. So I might as well combo my Yamcha on the field. The nice thing is Drum it does have barrier, so even if you board sweep right now, Drum is going to live. And this is where I kind of misplay, I think, in this next swing. I was hoping you're going to swing with one of the little guys, even though they're 20K, I believe, right now, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I minus.
And that next actually was relevant. That was actually very relevant because it turned off one attack, basically.
Yeah. So Drum did turn off one of your attacks, And now I'm like, okay, I could Wolf Fang Fist here, but I might still not be able to combo over it. So I figured I might as well block, but I think that was the bad move because of I could have kept that blocker if you swipe the field, and my Wolf Fang Fist is free right now. So why not use it before you do what you do right now, which is sweep the field? And now my Wolf Fang Fist is a dead card in my hand. So I definitely misplayed pretty hard right there. I was hoping maybe you'll
That'd
do a
be
bad
funny because
play.
game one you won because of the Kai. Game two I won because of the Kai.
Yeah, that is true. Now my hand is just filled with a few dead cards and just combo power. I already used my leader effect, so I
So
can't.
here, so here I'm thinking you have no counters that you can do. You already used your bleeder effect, so I'm just gonna keep attacking until I win.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, I don't play too many 10k combo cards in my deck, but I do have one in my two in my hand, and I have a few extra cards, and I don't run too many extra cards. I want to say like 6 extra cards. Oh no, maybe it's 8 extra cards. So it's an okay amount. It's not nothing unheard of. This that card right there is nice little tech. It's really good against blue. Um, but it's only a one of. But when it gets
It
off,
caught
it's
me
pretty
off guard
nice.
when I saw you. I saw you play that card, RJ. I was like, what the heck?
Yeah, it's a
So
nice card.
the way you the way you comboed was very, very telling that you did not have a super combo. So it made my comboing that much easier.
Yes, and you have 6 cards in hand, and you got a 10. No, she was 20k, so you have a 10k on the field. And I was like, okay, I could survive a 10k, and but then you just drop this monster on me. 2 attacks at
No,
25k.
it's the win back. See, it's like throwing more money on the field because that's like I think what like $60 now because of investors or whatever.
Basically, yeah. And 30, I don't. If
So
I
yeah,
could,
I guess money wins games.
yeah, basically, if I could have out comboed this one, I would have. But there's nothing I could do about this attack, so I have to take it. Which means I know you're just going to shotgun this next attack, and there's really not much I can do about it.
Yeah.
I just have to hope the rest of your hand is dead.
And it's funny on my end, I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, I hope this is enough to win the game
Mm-hmm.
because I literally remember I had like two violent rays in my hand and like a unison. So I think this was the most I could combo.
Yeah, and I don't think I have it. I think I got 15k, so I can only get to 30. So there's the game.
Yep. So that's Bardock Storm.
Yeah, you went turn 3, just pushed right through. Definitely some learning experience on my part now that I know which are your key cards to play against now, what to get rid of. And then, of course, a few misplays on both of our parts, but we're still learning this deck and
Yep.
against the deck. But it's definitely something pretty crazy if you get it off. It is glass cannony, but it's not as
And
like
you get it. It's consistent too. Like I think there's only one or two games out of all the ones that I've played where I don't get off this combo.
yeah. And I know you said it's glass cannony, but I mean, there's worse decks that are more glass cannon because like Majin Vegeta or like Reboot Gohan, you're going down to like 2 life, 1 life on that first or maybe second, third turn. So the crackback is real, but you can stay at 4 life on this and still have all that pressure. So unless they clear your board,
So the crazy thing about this deck is you can do everything that you did and not awaken. So
yeah,
your hand will be smaller, but you'll have like 7 life while still swinging with a bunch of 15Ks.
yeah. And maybe that might be like maybe a side deck choice. Maybe put Heartfelt on the side deck for those slower matchups that you want to awaken on turn 3 instead, and then you'll have that Heartfelt plea
Yeah, exactly.
um, instead of a turn 2 awaken.
Yeah, or like I said, sometimes if you're playing against a deck that can out aggro you, or like if you lost a die roll against an aggro deck. One thing that I've noticed is if I lose a die roll, I tend to not awaken until my turn 3,
Mm-hmm.
just because I know I'm potentially not going to be able to win that turn because my opponent went first, so they probably have their unison set up. They have their negates ready. They're able to defend better. So I know I'm not going to be able to win. So I'm basically going down to 4 for no reason. And now I'm within, like, they can come in the crackback. But
Mm-hmm.
so I try to stay as high life as possible and then just awaken turn 3. But if I win the die roll, that's when I'm like, okay, I'm going to awaken turn 2 and just go crazy.
All right. Well, thank you for showing us the deck profile and stopping by to talk about our gameplay. Maybe we'll try to put game one to see the other side. See, I think that was like a bad matchup or a bad hand, so we could see the other side of this when the deck doesn't work so well and see maybe the weaknesses of the deck too. So check that out in the future. And thank you, Juha, for stopping by and helping us out with this.
Thank you for having me.
All right, no problem. Well, have a good one, and everyone stay local. Have a good day.